Hi everybody, my name is Paige and I am the founder of Expat Education. I wanted to make a short video to introduce you to more global conversation videos. So the point of these videos is to get to know somebody somewhere around the world in a very short time. And this is really important to be able to do because we are always learning from people, whether they look like us or they don't, or they have the same interests or they don't. We're always learning. And so I'm going to share my screen here in just a moment. And the goal of this video is to show you all the places that we go. I'm 33 years old, so I'm going to show you all the countries that I've been to. But I want that to represent that all of us are going different places. We have different experiences. We have problems. We have great moments. There's everything in between. And so when you meet somebody, you don't know their full story, you don't know where they've been, you don't know what they've experienced, even though you might think that you do, okay? So let me share my screen and show you all of the places that you can go. So first, I'm from Michigan, so on the map here you can see my state right here. I'm from a tiny little beach town, and when I was 14, I really loved Spanish, and so I wanted to go with the Spanish group to Costa Rica. So we went to Costa Rica. You can see it right here on the map in Central America. I got to stay with a host family and explore more of the country, and I really loved it. So then I worked in Pennsylvania for a few summers at a summer camp when I was 20, 19, 20, and 21. And then after that, through that job, I met a lot of internationals, and I've always loved Australia. So when I was in college, I was studying teaching, and I did my student teaching partially in Michigan, and then I took a plane all the way to Australia. So I was there and I got to travel up the East Coast, and then I went to New Zealand, which was really cool also. And then after that, I did go back home. So I'll just show you on the map what that looks like going back to Michigan. And then I knew I wanted to keep traveling and teach abroad. So then I flew to China. I did travel a lot of China. I spent a year there. So then after I finished my teaching contract, I went to Thailand, I went to Laos, I went to Cambodia, and I went to Vietnam. And then guess what? Went back to go visit my family because I love them so much. And yeah, you definitely start to feel it after a while of feeling that disconnect because life is all about balance. So then I went home and then I traveled a bit of the US. I went to Colorado, I went to Washington, D.C. I did a few trips there. And then I took a job in Croatia. But before that job started, I did a big Europe trip. So I first started in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day. I went to Northern Ireland, then took a boat to Scotland, then I went to England, then I went to the Netherlands, I went to Belgium, I went to Germany, then you can see Germany is quite big. Then I went up to Denmark, then I went to Czech Republic. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see what it looks like. Went to Czech Republic, then I went to Austria, then I went to Hungary, then I went to Croatia. I was working there for the summer, which was really, really fun, and I'll explain that all of my jobs in other videos. But then I went to Bosnia and Herzegovina, I went to Montenegro, and then came back up and I went to Slovenia, and then I went to Germany again, then I went to France. And then I went to Spain, and then I went to Portugal, and then I went back to Spain. And then guess what? I went back to Michigan. So that was 9 months that I did, I think, overall in Europe. Then I went back to Michigan, and then I moved to Florida. So I'll go south here, and I moved to Tampa, and I was there for a while. And then I found a teaching job in Italy. So then I so then I flew back to Michigan to see my family. Then I flew to Italy across the ocean. Then I went to Italy and I was there for 3 months. And then after Italy, I found another teaching opportunity, which was in Serbia. So I actually went through Croatia again, and then I went to Serbia, and I was in Belgrade here. And then I found another teaching position in Romania. So then I was in Romania for a while. And then I flew home again. Maybe some of you think I'm kind of crazy at this point, but we've got a lot to go yet. So then I went back to Michigan. Then I flew to New York to go to my friend's wedding. Then I flew back to Michigan. And then I flew to, do you know the islands that I'm looking for? Then I moved to Hawaii, which is quite far. Let me just zoom out again. So yeah, I flew here. And then from Hawaii, I found a job in Galapagos, where maybe some of you have heard of the islands that Darwin went to. So then I, of course, flew home. Actually, this time my brother got married, which was really exciting. So I flew home, went to the wedding, and then I flew. Here's Ecuador. So Galapagos is part of Ecuador. Let me zoom in. So fly to the mainland and then fly. And I was living in Santa Cruz. I was actually living in Puerto Vallarta. So I was there. And then I got a job. Well, okay, wait. So then I did get a job, but I had some time to travel first. So I went to mainland Ecuador and traveled a bit. I also went to Peru and did a lot of Peru. I did some volunteering here as well, which I would love to just share that I do a lot of teaching and working, but then also there's like unlimited options to volunteer in different places. So just keep your mind open to find these opportunities. There's literally so many that you can find online besides, studying abroad and all of that. So from Peru, I went back home to see my family, of course. And then from there, the job that I had accepted when I was in Galapagos was actually in Fiji. So then I flew to Fiji, which I'm going to zoom out. Okay. So maybe something that you could find would be Australia. So you can find that as a marker. Sometimes it's easier to find a big place that you're familiar with. And then Fiji is out here in the Pacific. So I was working there for the summer. And then I was going to move back to Hawaii because I loved it so much, but my job became available again in Galapagos. So guess what I did? I went back to Galapagos. So I actually flew from Fiji to Honolulu. And then I'm just going to tell you this because it was kind of crazy. I flew to Honolulu, had a layover, flew to LA, flew to Miami, flew to Quito, and then flew back to Galapagos. And then I finished my contract in Galapagos and I went to Colombia and I was volunteering there. But then that's when COVID happened. So my plans definitely changed during that time, which was okay. The whole world changed at that time. So then from Colombia, I took a humanitarian flight home back to Michigan. So then I flew back to Michigan. And then from Michigan, I was teaching for the school year. And then I moved to Oregon. And then when I was in Oregon, I got accepted to a master's program in Italy. So then from Oregon, I flew to Michigan, of course. I love my family so much. And then I flew to Italy. Actually, I take that back because it was remote. So I flew to Michigan, but then actually I flew to England. I went back to London and I spent some time in London studying online. Maybe some of you have experience studying online, but I was in London for a while and then I flew to Albania, which is right here on the map. I had been to Montenegro, so it was just south of there. So I was in Albania, and then I flew to Turin or Torino, and I was studying there. And so then to finish my master's program, I went back. Well, I did go back to Michigan. You know Michigan by now, right? We know where that is. It looks like a mitten and it's close to Chicago. It's close to Toronto, right in between here. So I flew to Michigan, said hello to my family, and then I moved to Portland and I was in Oregon for a while. And then I was teaching there. And then I found a teaching job in Bali, Indonesia. And so I'm going to have to zoom out again because it's far away. So then from Oregon, I can't remember if I went to Michigan. I bet you I did. And then I flew, actually, I took the job in Bali, but it wasn't starting yet. So then I went to Hong Kong. I'm going to zoom in here. Here's Hong Kong. And then I went to Taiwan. And then the Philippines. So the Philippines, there's so many islands, but we just did a few. And then from the Philippines, that's when I went to Bali, Indonesia. So here's Indonesia. Indonesia also has so many islands. I was here in Bali, which maybe you've heard of. So then I taught in Bali, and then I moved back to Oregon. And then I lived there for a while. And then I went back to Michigan to visit my family, of course. And then I went on a big trip. So then I went to Pennsylvania again. I went to Philadelphia. I went to New York. And then I went and flew to Morocco, which you'll see here in Africa. It's in the northwest part. So I did Morocco. Then I went to Belgium again. It's fun to visit friends. But then I went to Belgium, I went to the Netherlands, I went back to Belgium, and then I flew to Thailand. So back to Asia. So I was in Thailand, and then I went to Cambodia, and then I went to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and then I went back to Bali, which we kind of pointed out before here. And then from Bali, I flew to Australia again. I was in Perth. I did the west side this time, but actually just this area. And then from Perth, I went to Singapore. Here's Singapore. And then from Singapore, I went to Los Angeles and I took the train up to Oregon. And then I flew back to Michigan. And then I spent a lot of time with my family because you can hear from the story I move a lot, which all of them have such amazing experiences. And I'm so glad that I've done all of this. And now I just took a new job, which this video is already long enough. So I'm going to make a part two at some point. But this video is to show you that there are so many beautiful places to go. And even though you meet somebody, you truly don't know all that they've experienced. So hopefully this was a fun way to show you that there are so many places we can go. And even if you are not a world traveler, yet that you are still having your own experiences. So we want to be kind to others and we also want to get to know them. There's so many experiences that I've had that make me who I am. So it's fun to talk about those experiences. So I encourage you to get to know others, whether they're similar to you or different, and keep growing, keep learning because life has a lot of opportunities for you. Let me just share that if you are interested in more global conversation videos where you can meet people around the world and also you get to travel with me. So that last big trip that I told you about, I did from Michigan to Pennsylvania to New York to Morocco to Belgium, all of that trip. I recorded it when I started the trip, but then I did the actual course when I was here in Southeast Asia and Australia. So you'll get to travel with me and see all the different places that I've lived, but then also the experiences that I've had. So we need to think about situational awareness of how we felt or what was going on or who I was with. And it's really fun to be able to get to know people around the world and then also kind of picture ourselves in different situations of all of our opportunities. So if you are interested in that, check out our website, www.expat.education. Those are our global conversation video modules. All right, that's all for now. Ciao.